This series of films will be a record of what the interior spaces of the ship was, how we believe it was used, what parts of it are original, and what interesting features might survive. So let's go on board. This is the orlop, the upper of two storage spaces in the ship. It's, for the most part, it's a large open space running all the way from the bow to the stern. There's a small room all the way forward. From here we can see only about halfway to the bow of the ship. And then there's a larger room here at the stern. Originally there was also a room here on the port side, which is where the ship's sails were stored, which is why we have 6 of them surviving. And then to starboard, on the other side of this ladder and a little bit farther forward, there was a small room that one of the ship's carpenters had built to hold his stuff and where he might have lived. Most of the orlop is an open space in the middle of the ship for storage and relatively lightly built, relatively thin pine planks laid over the beams without a lot of other substructure. But the aftermost bit, about a quarter of the deck, is built in a much heavier style, very much like the gun decks above. And that's because this little bit is also a gun deck. These two big square ports held stern chasers, a big heavy cannon that could be shoot at long range against ships that might be chasing. The carriages for those two guns were found in this space, but not at the ports, and clearly they did not yet have guns mounted in them. They were further forward, lashed to the deck. This room also held a large number of artillery stores. There were a lot of spare wheels or trucks to the gun carriages, as well as some of the ammunition. Most of the large 24-pounder round shot were down in the hold, but all of the specialized shot of odd types like chain shot and crossbar shot, scissor shot were stored in this room, as was the ammunition for the 3-pounder guns, the smaller guns on the upper deck. And so this little bit of the room had a very strong artillery flavor. There was one barrel of personal possessions found in this space, jammed down in between the two gun carriages, as well as some amount of rigging spares that had been flooded out of the sail room, which lies a little bit farther forward on the port side. This room had one other function, and that was to provide access to the ship for boats coming alongside. Normally, because the side of the ship is so high, it's about 6 meters above the water at the waterline. If you wanted to put something in a boat or get into a boat from the ship, you had to climb down the outside of the ship on an accommodation ladder. But this room had 2 message ports, small ports like miniature gun ports, mounted in the sides that were just above the water, so you could communicate with somebody in a boat, hand something out to a boat, or even climb out through them to get into a boat. They're located just forward to these knees on each side. Here we have the starboard message port. You can see it's not very large, maybe 50 centimeters on a side, just barely big enough for a person to climb out through. It's built just like a gun port. It has the sills, it has a lid that on hinges on the outside. You can see there's a cleat just above it, so you can belay the line used for opening it. And when it closes, it will seal, keep the water out. It might have been possible to rig a small cannon here. There are bolts either side for ring bolts, which could have been used to take breachings, but it's probably mostly used for access. The lowest part of the ship is the hold. It's the main storage area for the ship for things like provisions, most of the ammunition. It's where the ballast is kept that helps maintain the ship's stability. It was reached by a number of hatches through the orlop. Some of those hatches lined up with hatches higher up in the ship, so one could descend on a series of ladders all the way from the upper deck to the hold. Once one got to the hold, one could move through a series of 9 compartments by sliding doors between them, or one could come directly down from decks above.